All right, we now go to some breaking news. A New York federal judge has just dropped the death penalty charge against Luigi Mangione for the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This is a major blow to prosecutors. U.S. District Judge Margaret Garnett found that the charge was, quote, technically flawed. CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi joins us now for more on this story. So talk about how this decision you think was made.
Yeah, this is an epic win for the defense. And I do want to just walk through a little bit of how the technical law plays into this decision, because it's not simply just the judge deciding, hey, I don't think the death penalty should be eligible in this case. There were 4 counts. This federal indictment charged Mangione with 4 counts. The first 2 involve stalking, and the second 2, counts 3 and 4, are those death penalty. 3 was the death penalty eligible count, which involved murder through the use of a firearm in commission of another crime of violence. And we've heard this idea of a predicate crime before. Counts 3 and 4, those predicate crimes were the stalking charges. And the defense made a really good motion noting that stalking is not a crime of violence. Therefore, counts 3 and 4 were legally insufficient. And that's what the judge agreed with today. This is why having very sophisticated criminal defense attorneys pays off. They are winning almost every motion they are making. Remember, in the state case, they got that highest charge off the table, murder 1, because they said this was not an act of terrorism. The judge agreed with them there. The life in prison, which was the highest sentence available on that charge, taken off the table in the state case. Now we have the death penalty taken off the table in the federal case. Huge, huge win for the defense.
So remind us, Caroline, what the debate over.
Now, let me say this before we get into a little bit more information about this. She is 100% all right. Having a good lawyer, especially a defensive lawyer when you're doing a crime, the money pays for itself. Which we have to talk about the moral implications anyway. Being a defense attorney in general, defending some of these horrible crimes. But then some people will say everyone is entitled to their defense, which they are if we believe in and support the laws that are currently on the books. But let's keep going.
The evidence was specifically with regards to when police first approached Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, Vlad, that's sort of the major outstanding issue left to be decided in both of these cases, and it is pivotal. So I mentioned before that the defense is winning, is winning many major motions, including this one we just heard about. However, I'm not as confident that they will win this motion, which is a huge make or break motion, both for the prosecution and the defense. Essentially, what Mangione's attorneys were arguing is that evidence that was seized in the Altoona McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, upon his arrest, in his backpack, key pieces of evidence in his backpack, including that magazine cartridge, the gun, we're seeing it there, a journal, basically a manifesto explaining reasons about why he allegedly did what he did. All of that, the defense is saying, was obtained in violation of his Fourth Amendment right because they didn't have a warrant. Now, the alternate argument to that, police can do a search without a warrant and be not in violation of the Constitution if there are exigent circumstances. And I think the judge ultimately will let this evidence in under what's known as the inevitable discovery doctrine. It's a pretty technical legal issue, but this is what these lawyers are doing. They are getting down into the nitty gritty, making these motions and causing really putting the government to their proof. That's sort of the last question in this case before we get to trial, and that's sort of the biggest issue left to be determined. Again, I'm not optimistic that the defense will win that, but the defense must be very, very happy today in this ruling to dismiss counts 3 and 4. Really big deal.
Caroline, I can't.
Now, that would be a crazy win for the defense, that they could get the evidence of the gun, the magazine, and the manifesto thrown out because of an illegal search. But it does pose the question on would they have already found it because they were on the lookout for it. It's a crazy thing. Let's keep going.
I remember the last time we had a case this big, this captivating, really not just here in the US, but around the world, right? There was so much publicity about it. I felt like everyone's social media feeds were just filled with images and videos of Luigi Mangione. And I just wonder how, if any way, that may impact the legal proceedings here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is going to be an incredibly difficult case for trial to pick a jury. You know, one of the issues today to be addressed was that juror questionnaire, which is essentially trying to sift out jurors that are that potentially could have biases that they can't overcome. I mean, we're seeing this free Luigi Mangione movement really pick up speed here. I mean, this breaking news about somebody trying to break him out of the federal prison that he's
Right.
in. I mean, his defense fund is funded in large part from people around the country that support him, and so that will be one of the biggest issues in picking a jury, trying to get a fair trial. You're never going to seat jurors that haven't heard of this case. It's just impossible. But the goal is to seat jurors that can be fair and impartial. And really, what the prosecutors don't want are those rogue jurors that are pretending really to be impartial, but secretly have some sort of allegiance to Mangione and or his movement that will just never vote to convict him.
So, Caroline, this is a federal case that we're talking about here, but Mangione is also facing state charges. Where does that case stand?
That's exactly right, Vlad. And we're seeing a very public turf war over which jurisdiction is going to get the first crack at trying Mangione. Just recently, Alvin Bragg's office, the district attorney that has pending murder charges against Mangione as well, wrote to the judge in that case saying, look, we are ready to go to trial. They proposed a July trial date, Vlad, which is obviously before that September trial date in the federal case, which is set to go to, pick a jury essentially in September. And so Mangione's team, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, she released a statement saying, well, this is the first we've heard of that. It's highly unfair. We've been preparing for a trial in September, and it's really unduly prejudicial for us to have to prepare for the state trial, which, it's the same conduct, Vlad, but it's different charges. And so, really, it's not a good look for both offices, both the Southern District of New York and the district attorney's office. They're clearly not on the same page. And I think part of that has to do with the administration change. Pam Bondi coming in, really pushing hard for that death penalty, wanting to sort of get the first crack at having that trial in federal courts.
It's a crazy situation, no matter how you look at it. But the death penalty is off the table. The death penalty is off the table. Let's go over into the AI breakdown. So, like I said, the death penalty in a Manhattan federal judge ruled today that Mangione will not face the death penalty. She dismissed the two federal charges, a murder charge and a weapons charge, finding that they did not meet the legal definition of crimes of violence required for capital punishment. He still faces federal stalking charges that carry a minimum sentence of life in prison. Separate New York state charges, including second-degree murder, also remain active and they carry a potential of 25 years to life. He is aiming for a trial date of July 1st, 2026. Jury selection for the federal trial is currently scheduled for September 8th, 2026. Now, let's attempted jailbreak. On January 28th, a 35-year-old man was arrested after allegedly posing as an FBI agent and with a barbecue fork and pizza cutter in an attempt to free Mangione from federal custody in Brooklyn. Absolute crazy. So this all stems from the December 4th, 2024 murder of Brian Thompson. It's an absolutely crazy situation. Now, he's got a lot of supporters because all of his legal fees are covered by the public defense. That's why he has such good lawyers. And he's raised he raised hundreds of thousands of dollars from supporters just sending him money. And all of this from the the diary talking about the evidence, his motives against the CEO for what they've done again for the healthcare system. It's a crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think it's all right for him to have the death penalty taken off the table? Absolutely crazy. But that is where we are sitting right now with the Luigi Mangione stuff.